Have you ever wanted to start your very own podcast? Sorry, that's a dumb question. Of course you wanted to start your own podcast. Podcasting's amazing. Head on over to blueberry.com. That's BLUBRRY.com. Use promo code Gamepinions, and then that's right, you listening to this right now, you can have a free month of podcast hosting service, and also if you take that promo code, you can also get a free month of stats so you can keep track of that podcast that you're working so hard on. Blueberry is incredible, and the features are simply amazing. I don't have time to talk about them, though, because I have to start my own show. So after this episode of Gamepinions, make sure you head on over to blueberry.com, look up what it is all about, use promo code Gamepinions, and get started on an adventure of a lifetime. Welcome to Gamepinions episode 16. I'm your host, Calvin, and today we're having a brand new episode of Game. I'm going to start today's episode off with some housekeeping. First, let me take my keys off. I don't think you guys want to listen to this. The entire podcast, that would drive me crazy. I imagine it would drive you crazy as well. I had an update, though, today on Gamepinions Undusted, which is a Patreon exclusive podcast that is going to be focusing on singular games. I am actually changing my approach to that now. That will release in March. I've decided that I don't want to bar people from my content. So basically, Gamepinions Undusted will be a timed exclusive for those of you that decide to pledge any amount of money. I'm still coming up with the tiers and all that. But if you get Gamepinions, it'll be Gamepinions early. You'll have 4 episodes the first of every month. So you'll get to decide what you want to do with that content. And essentially it would release weekly for non-patrons. I don't want my content to be locked away. I feel like that isn't beneficial to anybody involved. And if I make a podcast, I want as many people to be able to listen to it as possible. Otherwise, to me, there's no real point in me creating content. So that's kind of a decision that I've kind of shifted to. I think it will still just be on the normal feed. That way you don't have to go looking for other feeds and whatnot. I just think that is too much. I just want everything on one singular feed. It's going to be like a bonus episode per week. And if you, like I said, if you have a Patreon account and you subscribe to Gamepinions on there and pledge anything towards it, you guys will get that timed, and I'm still working on some other benefits as well. So I just wanted to keep that out there just for the core content. If you are like, for whatever reason, somehow, in some possible way, you found this podcast and you just are super passionate about it, the Patreon is definitely for you. But if you're just somebody that wants to listen to all the content that we create, I don't want to block you guys from that. I just don't think that's fair. So, I also have another announcement. I will be getting a co-host, not for every episode, but for episodes that will be recorded on the weekend. And that will be Kimberly, who was in episode 7. We had a really great time together doing that. We have recorded some things on and off here and there. She decided that she's going to be moving to Gamepinions, so we will have her on the show, and she will get to kind of talk about that decision and things that we'll be planning together. So really excited about that. It's going to be nice having a second voice in here because I'm sure mine gets nauseating after a while. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But now I guess we're just going to go ahead and pop into the biggest story of the day. And I guess it really happened yesterday, but it's still kind of coming out in droves. Everyone's kind of making their rounds to put it up. And that is that Scalebound, a previously canceled Xbox One exclusive game from Platinum Games, could be coming to Nintendo Switch. And this comes per report on Nintendo Insider by Alex Seedhouse. Here is the quote that he has. I have confidence in my sources to report that it is my understanding that Scalebound has been resurrected as a project to be released as a Nintendo Switch exclusive. Given Microsoft's previous involvement, it remains unclear to me whether development has been completely rebooted from scratch, or at least its ambition scaled back, seeing as now it's designed for the nimble but less powerful portable home console. Further to this, I believe that Scalebound is likely to be the game that's thought to be dead that Nintendo's reviving, that Game Informer senior editor Imran Khan had hinted at on Kinda Funny Games last week. Although there's a chance that he could have heard about a different project that will be resuscitated. So for those of you that don't know, I went ahead and grabbed a little description of what Scalebound is. I wasn't super, into the whole Scalebound thing in terms of following it closely. I mean, obviously from the outside, you do hear what's going on. When I used to cover games somewhat, I really wasn't in the Xbox One department. I was definitely more in the Nintendo type coverage. So Scalebound was an action role-playing video game developed for Xbox One by Platinum Games in 2013 until its cancellation in 2017. So the game was scheduled to release in 2017 on Xbox One and Microsoft Windows, with Microsoft Studios publishing the title. Microsoft announced the cancellation of Scalebound's development in 2017, and that took place in January of 2017. In the game, players would assume the role of Drew, who is accompanied by a dragon called Thuban. Players used a variety of weapons to defeat enemies and could issue commands to the dragon, which assisted players during battles. Unlike other games developed by Platinum Games, the game put more focus on graphical qualities and role-playing aspects instead of action. So then you kind of have to think like, okay, so Scalebound, it was, worked on by Microsoft Studios, which is now Xbox Games. So what's the deal here? Like, isn't Scalebound owned by Microsoft? And, I was thinking that too. Like, well, how are they going to just acquire the rights? However, later on in this article, Seedhouse went on to say, as far as I'm aware, the Scalebound trademark has been renewed, but soon had to be abandoned thanks to Microsoft being unable to state what they would use it for. Ultimately, that has left the door open for another publisher to step in, and is part of ongoing discussions around the projects that Platinum Games could work on for Nintendo Switch. It was something that Nintendo expressed interest in. And honestly, this is a lot different than the Bayonetta 2 situation, but I can't help but think about the Bayonetta 2 situation, because basically Platinum needed a publishing partner that had a large amount of resources and funds. To me, for Scalebound, Nintendo just makes sense as a likely suitor, given their relationship and given just how they've really just kind of bonded over these last two generations that Nintendo has had. So it's really interesting, and just looking at the game, I can definitely see this game fitting in on a Nintendo platform. It kind of reminds me of like, a combination of like Monster Hunter and like Xenoblade in a way, because it's kind of futuristic in a way, but it also is like, you have dragons and swords and whatnot. So it's a little weird. I mean, even in the trailer, the guy is wearing the guy's wearing headphones. So, it's almost like I guess Naruto-esque in a way, how it's like they're all ninjas, but then they have like headsets and stuff. You know what I mean? It's just kind of weird. It also kind of, in a way, reminded me a little bit of Freedom Wars, just in character design, because you can wear headphones in that game too. I know not every game that has headphones is Freedom Wars, but I can just kind of see it in that style. It also looked like potentially multiplayer, which I think is pretty interesting as well. So there's a lot of things going on here and a lot of questions, but apparently, Microsoft no longer has any control of it, and I feel like Microsoft wouldn't even do anything to try to stop this anyway, because them and Nintendo are really close and really buddy-buddy right now. I feel like Microsoft at this point, they had their chance with Scalebound. They decided to move on. I don't think there's any ill will towards it. I just think they needed to make a business decision and needed to, appropriately change their funds around. But obviously, this would have been a big game for them, I guess, last year or the year before, and they could have just waited it out. But at this point, I feel like they've just moved on. I feel like they have no interest anymore in Scalebound after that whole thing kind of fell through for them. So yeah, it's a logical reason that Nintendo would be interested in this game, though. There's just it makes a lot of sense there. And Hideki Kamiya, he didn't want this game to get canceled. This was a game that I think he cared greatly for, and he, obviously is the video game designer and director working at Platinum Games. He is behind The Wonderful 101, Bayonetta, a few other games too. And I think this could possibly be a game that he is currently working on. So there's a lot of interesting notes about this game, and like I said, I didn't really follow this game super close when it was first kind of coming out and it was talked about, because I was mainly focused in on what Nintendo was doing, and what Sony was doing, I guess, to some extent too. So basically, he never wanted this game to be canceled, and I feel like that is kind of big because he's kind of like the top dog there. At least that's kind of the impression I get of Platinum Games. Like he's the most famous person at Platinum Games. Like I think everyone knows who Kamiya is, and he has a very active Twitter account, and it's pretty funny to read it. It's just weird seeing him associated with Nintendo, who they don't really post much of anything that isn't kid friendly. So it's very interesting. But Platinum Games and Nintendo, they have a great working relationship. Like if you think that this is just not going to happen and think that it's impossible, this game has a pretty long history to it, and Nintendo and Platinum Games have a great relationship. Wonderful 101 on the Nintendo Wii U, Bayonetta 2 on the Nintendo Wii U, Star Fox Zero. Nintendo allowed Platinum to come in and work on a first-party game for their system. It wasn't the best Star Fox game, apparently. I never played it. I heard that it wasn't really the best Star Fox game out there. But it's still really interesting because it's like, okay, you guys allowed them to come in here and work on a first-party game. Why wouldn't Platinum be all in Nintendo's business trying to get them to put out Scalebound? And why wouldn't Nintendo have a mutual interest in that? So then on the Switch, you have Bayonetta 1 port, Bayonetta 2 port. Bayonetta 3 is coming out on the Switch as an exclusive brand new third-party game. And Astral Chain on Nintendo Switch that was just revealed in the Direct, another Nintendo Switch exclusive. So it makes sense that Scalebound would be a Nintendo exclusive game. You guys still don't believe that this game could come to the Nintendo Switch? Well, after doing some research in some other articles that posted about this, I was able to discover one on Nintendo Life where basically they went over a 2015 interview with Kamiya on GameStop discussing the development of the game. And apparently, the development of Scalebound didn't start on the Xbox One. It started on the Nintendo Wii. This is what he said in an interview with GameSpot. When they first started, the idea was for a Wii game, and we wanted to use a Wii remote to do orders for the dinosaurs. You were in control of the dinosaurs. You were ordering the dinosaurs around, and they do cool things. Then, after we made Bayonetta, we started the prototype. The first thing that I made a change to was making it a dragon game. We changed the dinosaurs to dragons. But at that point, the lead character was even weaker than current protagonist Drew is in the context of Scalebound. She was actually a little girl who was with these dragons. As we were making this prototype, I realized that I didn't want to just be watching the fight. I wanted to be more participatory in the fight. I started talking with the staff and how maybe we should change this to be a swordsman or someone a little bit older. This was when the prototype got put on the back burner, so to speak. The project was halted, then we made the Wonderful 101. So it sounds to me like the game would have probably controlled similar to how the Wonderful 101 controlled on the Nintendo Wii U. Obviously, a different game. But I thought that was really interesting. So this game started off on Nintendo hardware. I feel like it's so vastly different now, the hardware. So I feel like it really would probably have to be rebooted or restarted on the Nintendo Switch, especially due to Microsoft's involvement at some point with that game. I feel like it would definitely have to be kind of overhauled for a Nintendo Switch, but it started off a Nintendo platform, so why wouldn't they go back to a Nintendo platform if Nintendo was clearly okay with it the first time? It just, to me, it would go full circle. It would go back to a system that, it was a system that's kind of similar in some ways to one that it was developed for. So originally developed for a Nintendo platform. How interesting is that? I did not know that. And like I said before, I wasn't super, following this game super closely or anything like that. But I think that adds an extra wrinkle to this game. And also maybe Nintendo would really like to see this game return to their system. I think it'd be really cool. So that makes sense in a few ways that this game would go there. Not to mention this would give Nintendo a brand new IP. They already pretty much looks like, they have Bayonetta locked down, which is, a good franchise to have. If they could get Scalebound, which could potentially be a major third-party game. I mean, people were thinking that this game was going to be a AAA game. There was a lot of excitement about this game and a lot of disappointment when this game was canceled. So this could be huge. Nintendo is constantly looking to, I guess, expand its IP. If they could get Scalebound, I feel like that would be a massive move by them and by Platinum. And I think, once again, the Switch is such a logical platform for the game. And it just would be pretty freaking phenomenal if it actually could happen. There's not a ton of details. It really just goes down to these rumors. And honestly, I feel like there's way more far-fetched things that we hear that end up being true than this. So I guess the best thing I could say here is for all of us to keep our fingers crossed. I do have a Twitter topic of the day that I'd like to go through real quick. This is going to be a really short episode. We're going to be making a few of them this week, possibly. But I just definitely wanted to get this one out here. I do have a Twitter topic of the day, though, so I will go ahead and grab that. But yeah, I mean, it's basically just to the point where we have to just, hope for the best, and maybe something will happen, and maybe something will turn out okay, and we get a brand new exclusive game on the Switch. But to a system that has been really strong, it just had a really strong Nintendo Direct. I feel like this is huge, and this could definitely bolster the Switch's library if they got another third-party exclusive from Platinum. At that point, I feel like Platinum and Nintendo should just become one, and Platinum should just exclusively make games for the Nintendo Switch, which kind of looks like that's what it's heading towards anyway. But it's exciting, though. I think that it's going to be really interesting to follow that. So we're going to hop into the Twitter topic of the day. This is from Super Metal Dave 64. Xbox fans, you realize that it's very possible Microsoft canceled Scalebound in favor of Crackdown 3 development. Crackdown 3. Now look what could happen. You might want to consider a switch of your loyalties going forward, winky face. And you know what? Honestly, I feel like if you are an Xbox fan, I feel like this should be a win-win for you, right? You have your Xbox One, you're getting Crackdown, and Nintendo Switch is going to be getting Xbox Live anyway. So, you should probably have a Switch. That could be your Xbox Portable, essentially, right? That could be potentially what it is. We've talked about that before. It could potentially be an Xbox Portable. So if this game goes to Switch, I really don't see Microsoft fans really super hating this. I feel like Microsoft and Nintendo has really bonded this generation, and even the fans, to me, I feel like Microsoft fans, especially after the whole Xbox Live thing, I think they've really kind of come together here, and this kind of just has been a dual platform fan base recently. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of hatred for this move, and I think that this could honestly be beneficial to both involved here. So once again, definitely keep an eye out on it, but I don't think this should be a move that makes people super upset. So this is Zach at Endgame the Cube. Scalebound was one of the reasons why I wanted an Xbox One back in the day, and now it's being revived for the Nintendo Switch. I am living, and he has a picture of Kirby with some fancy glasses on, very, very cute. Yeah, I mean, this would be a big move. I mean, Scalebound on the Nintendo Switch, it would be a high-profile game. I feel like the hype for it would be unreal, and it would give Nintendo a game that, it would give them a unique game, I think. One that, isn't really on the platform right now. I mean, obviously, like I said, you have Monster Hunter, you have Xenoblade, but this one definitely looks like it plays differently. When I was talking about that before, it was mainly like towards aesthetics, and I was just trying to draw parallels between all these different games. This one definitely looks a lot different in terms of gameplay, and I think this one could be just really awesome. I think this could really be a big game on the Switch. This next one is Alana Pierce, former IGN at Charlanazard, or Charlanazard. I'm not good at pronunciation on some of these hashtag or at tags. And she said, I was told Scalebound would come out, just not as an Xbox exclusive, by someone I consider fairly credible all the way back in June last year. But I didn't believe them. Maybe it's true. Shrug. This kind of makes sense because, and really, actually, this is really intriguing because Alana obviously was working at IGN, I believe, back at that time. I think that was right before she left, if I'm remembering correctly. So if someone she knew, and she knows a lot of people in the industry, if someone she knew that was somewhat reliable told her about that, then that kind of adds a little bit of weight to the entire situation. So I think that that's actually really interesting. And yeah, I mean, if that is the case, and I don't see why she would make it up. That's kind of huge. That's kind of a low-key huge tweet there in terms of giving this a little bit more weight. The next tweet is from JA38N at Even Neon. I can't pronounce your name, buddy. If this is the case, that Microsoft couldn't renew the Scalebound trademark and it was just up for grabs, Sony missed a big effing opportunity to hand Microsoft a massive L. I'm actually kind of surprised in this too. Sony, I'm surprised, didn't pounce on this because I feel like this would fit their ecosystem really well. But I feel like when you're like the top dog in the industry, I feel like a lot of times you kind of overlook things. I feel like Sony just might have been in a situation where they just didn't want to publish. They're working on their own stuff. They didn't want to publish a game that was canceled and a game that, for all intents and purposes, didn't really seem like it was all that complete and all that finished, and a lot of progress wasn't really made on it. There was a reason why Microsoft decided to leave it where it was at. I feel like Nintendo, though, with Platinum, both of them kind of have similar views on creating games and trying to create the best game possible. We saw it with Metroid Prime 4. I think that this would be a really good mix if Nintendo published it for them. And, similar to the Bayonetta 2 situation, the games definitely come out and it seems like they have just a relationship that allows for games to release on their platform. So, I don't know. Maybe Microsoft just didn't really work well with Platinum. Maybe there was some, differences in, I guess, trying to think, like maybe differences in how they go about things, differences in approach. I'm not sure. Maybe they just didn't see eye to eye, and maybe that's ultimately what led to this. But I think Nintendo matches up well. I think Sony honestly would have matched up well, but I feel like Sony, when you are so ahead of the game, I feel like you're not really looking at a lot of the things people under you are doing. You're kind of looking ahead. So it'll cause you to miss opportunities like this. There's probably more to it than that. They might just, maybe they didn't identify this as something that, they were super interested in, or maybe Platinum wasn't interested in Sony. I don't know. This is next one is Kyle at BB Tag Hell Again. Whoa, how did you do that? That's crazy. That is a weird. Oh, it's at Kyle Lambert 2001. I'm looking at your title here. I'm just like, what? That doesn't make any sense. I'm like 99% sure this isn't how it works. Microsoft still owns the rights to Scalebound despite it being canceled, right? Apparently not. Apparently they could not give a reason as to why they tried to renew the copyright, because they had no intention of, or I guess maybe the license, they had no intention of releasing the game, so they had to forfeit it later down the road. So it's up for grabs. This is a free agent game, and a likely suitor is Nintendo. It's the one that makes the most sense given the previous work experience and work relationship. This is at Sec at the Endgame the Cube. This is probably the first time that someone's been featured twice in the Twitter topic of the day. That's kind of crazy. Congratulations, Zach. I'm sure you're honored to be on this this podcast. Scalebound being arrived for Nintendo Switch makes too much sense. He put a number here. I'm not going to try to read that number. Math is not my strong suit, but it's 949293992. Nintendo exclusive projects from Platinum Games. One rumor stated that there were 2 non-Bayonetta Platinum games being made for Nintendo Switch. Scalebound was an Xbox project, and now Nintendo is married to Xbox now. Yeah, there's a lot of different parallels and a lot of different connections there, and it just makes the situation kind of weird, but also really interesting and intriguing. Yeah, it makes too much sense. It really does, because I feel like even if Microsoft was kind of sore about this, I feel like they just wouldn't be, because Nintendo has worked with them so nicely during this generation, and they're still business partners. I mean, for all intents and purposes. So I really don't see this as, a loss for Microsoft in many ways. This increases people wanting the Switch and people who will eventually be possibly using whatever service they bring to Nintendo's platform. That's more revenue for them. So I really don't think this is a loss for Microsoft, or at least it's too early to say that definitively. So, I definitely think that, we have to kind of cool our jets there a little bit, because I don't think this is a huge loss for Microsoft at all. This next tweet is from 9volt, at 9volt. I have purchased the rights to Scalebound and have decided to release it on the Nintendo GameCube. I am upset because I really wanted it on the PSP. So a little upset with that, but you know what? Have fun with it on your GameCube. 9volt. 9_volt_. Andrew Marmo at the Marmalade. At the _Marmalade. That's a pretty sick name, actually. If true, I'll buy everyone a copy of Scalebound who liked this tweet, and he retweeted Nintendo Insider. I like this one because if he's going to be buying, I might as well get on board. He's going to be, if this is a $60 game, hold on. If this is a $60 game, let's pull up a calculator here, because he's going to be spending quite a bit of money. So let's see, 60, this is just a rough estimate, times 1,151. So he's going to be spending 69,069, yeah, 69,060 copies of this game. Yeah, that's pretty rough. So enjoy that. And if you buy me the game, I'll definitely give you a shout out again. So, yeah. Man, I don't think I'd ever have like the courage to do that, because I feel like someone would get mad, and that someone is me. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like that someone would get mad if I did that and just didn't, live up to that. But hey, man, I'm expecting you to get me that game if it comes out on Switch. So I'll be waiting for that pre-order notice when this game inevitably gets announced at E3 officially. But yeah, that's all the Twitter topics that we have today. Congratulations to Zach, who was on here twice. I did not even realize that that until now. I thought your profile picture looked familiar when I was going through these. But yeah, this is really interesting stuff. Like I said, I mean, there wasn't a ton of stuff to say about it just because we don't have a lot of details on it. It's all speculatory at this point, and reports can be wrong, but there's so many more far-fetched things than this occurring, and I really truly believe that this is highly possible, and it would make a ton of sense, and it would be a perfect fit. Nintendo would be a perfect suitor for this game on the platform. So, we'll see what happens, but I'm personally going to be keeping my fingers crossed because I want to see the Nintendo Switch get as many games as possible, because it's a platform that is really proving that you can come back from a failure like the Wii U. So it's nice to see it. It's nice to at least be involved in these rumors and talks that a potentially huge game could be coming to the platform exclusively. So I feel like it's beneficial to everyone really except for PlayStation. So yeah, I mean, it's just exciting. So I don't want to drag this on forever. This is once again more of a rambling type podcast, one that I prepared very quickly. But look forward to more content throughout the week. I am very busy this week, so this week might be dedicated, at least to the rest of the week, dedicated to creating an outline for this weekend. So I do plan on recording with Kimberly this weekend, so the next episode should have the both of us on there. But also, I plan on working on Undusted, finishing up that and having that ready to go, and also having everything set up for you guys so you guys know exactly what's going on. So I thank you guys so much for listening to Gamepinions episode 16. I will see you in the next episode. Have a good day.